Welcome to Stu News Sunday, underwritten in part by Tom Johnson and StuNewsNewport.com, and Lynn Selich at Spinnaker Investment Group in Newport Beach. And now, here's Tom and Lynn.
Good morning. Sunday morning, Stu News Sunday. This is Tom Johnson. Lynn Selich is vacationing today in the desert, and I didn't know we were going to have video in here, and we'll get into all of that, but I decided to bring in another pretty face, and that pretty face is John Stevens, Mayor Pro Tem of Costa Mesa. Good to have you here, John.
Well, it's great to be here, Tom, and I was thinking the same thing as I heard Lynn mention that she's a lot better looking than I am. So I don't know why we're on video, and I've got a face for radio, so I don't know.
That's right.
We'll do the best we can.
Hey, listen, I knew Lynn was going to be on vacation. Early in the week, I called you up and I said, hey, how about joining me as a co-host this week? And you were gracious enough to say yes. And then things happened in Costa Mesa this week that are really, out of the ordinary with the coronavirus and everything like that. Really got all you guys hopping at City Hall.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's been really a crazy, I guess I would want to say a week. It seems like a week, but really I didn't know anything about this until Thursday evening. Yeah.
So we're gonna really hit on the coronavirus, what Costa Mesa is doing about it, the involvement of our. I got to commend you. You're part of it, John. City Council took the bull by the horns on this thing and did an incredible job over the weekend, early in the weekend, to get an injunction. We're going to talk about all of that stuff. But something huge has happened in Costa Mesa this last week, and I was telling John at the top of the show, Arliss, that I knew my co-host Lynn Selich wasn't going to be here today, and so John and I are good friends, and I called John the other day and I said, hey, how about being my co-host on Sunday? And he goes, oh yeah, that'd be great. So we'd planned to do this, and then all of a sudden at the end of the week, the coronavirus issue breaks out, and I'm thinking, like, I am the luckiest guy. I asked him to be my co-host. He can come in and we can talk about this issue. Now, it's not a laughing issue or whatever, but let's talk about, where were you? How was Costa Mesa notified? And then what were the steps that were taken?
Well, so it's interesting. I was actually at Angel Stadium, oddly enough, and I was at a dinner where I was learning about these RENA numbers and things like that. Mm-hmm. And I got a call from the secretary of the city manager and said, we need to have an emergency meeting. It's highly confidential. Not a meeting, a phone call. And so at 8 o'clock, and the call, I got the call at about...
And what day is this?
This is Thursday.
Thursday, okay.
And I got that call at about 7, I think I know exactly because I'm weird, 7:43. Okay. I needed to be on the call at 8. So I started the call in the parking lot of Angel Stadium, and Arliss and I were on the same call. And what happens because of the Brown Act, they can't have a telephone call with all the council members. So they started out, we were the first. So Arliss and I were on the call together with city staff, and they briefed us on it. And by the time we got to the end, I was home. So I started at Angel Stadium, I got home. We get off the line, and I immediately call Arliss, or she calls me, or whatever, and so we got off the line at 8:30, and with the city staff, and Arliss and I were talking individually at probably 8:31, mm-hmm. and by 8:32 we're both saying we've got to do something about this. This is really serious, and we have to take some action to address this, and if possible, stop it. And then that night. Arliss is right. Even though she played a soccer game, she was on every single phone call, and the phone calls continued until about 1:30 in the morning. Mm-hmm. And then we mobilized a strategy where we called the Keller firm, who represented us very well in the Yellowstone case, and they're regarded as some of the finest lawyers in Orange County. We were on the phone with them or the city attorney was at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and moving the legal strategy forward that led to, of course, filing the TRO. And then we had meetings that day, emergency meetings. And, Arliss can tell her perspective, but it was really, I think, incredible that all the city staff was remarkable, and they worked mm-hmm. round the clock. And Lorianne Farrell Harrison is an absolute rock star, but and so is Kim Barlow, our city attorney. But the city council together. All 7 of us were fully engaged in this issue,
Great.
working together for the benefit of the community. No politics, no nonsense, just focused in on how can we protect Costa Mesa.
Arliss, so what went through your mind when, I mean, we've all been watching the news the last few weeks and everything, and or however long this issue has been out there with the coronavirus, and it's kind of spreading in other parts of the world and things like that. We see it on cruise ships and everything, and we see these people coming home and being confined, and over in the Far East and things like that. What did you think, and what were your first thoughts when you heard that this is potentially coming to Costa Mesa? I mean, of all the places it could go, it's going to come to Costa Mesa. What were your thoughts?
Oh, yeah. So I think my time was 7:37 when I got the call. So they must have just started down the alphabet. And all they told us, they said, can you get on a call at 8 o'clock tonight? And this is highly unusual. We don't get asked to get on a call, immediately. I'm told it's a public safety issue. So my brain is just turned, like, what could it be? And I probably shouldn't say the things that I thought it could be, but a real dangerous situation.
That's another show, though.
Requires,
we could have.
I did not predict coronavirus. Okay. So when we get on the call and we're given this information, I always try very, very hard not to react until I've heard all of the information. Right. So we spend about 30 minutes asking a bunch. We have a barrage of questions, and one of the frustrating parts of this whole situation is that nobody has answers, and when we do get answers, it's often inconsistent information. But then when John and I connected afterwards, I think the first thing I said was, this is crazy, right? Yeah. Like, this is crazy. I don't think I'm being reactionary to say this is crazy. Yeah. And the more we got information, and John's right, our staff have been working really hard trying to piece together information. It's not been a clear flow, and that's one of the things that made us so concerned. They've done a really good job, I think, even digging through dumpsters to try to figure out what's going on at FDC right now. The more we learned about what was in process and the more we struggled to figure out who is in charge, I think the more concerned we were about needing to get in front of this as quickly as we could.
And I want to go there. So where does this come down from? I mean, I don't know if the general public really has a grasp of that. So who contacts or who orders this, and then how does Costa Mesa find out about it?
Oh, you want to take it down? Here.
I'll just say the first defendant in our lawsuit is the United States of America.
Okay.
Yeah. There's about 13 others listed.
It's a pretty amazing list of defendants, including the Air Force and the Department of Defense, the Center for Disease Control, the Health and Human Services, the governor of the state of California. I thought, wow, that's quite a list of defendants. The Katrina Foley is the name plaintiff. Right. And also the city of Costa Mesa. So it's Katrina Foley against the world, and the city of Costa Mesa. So anyway, but that's one of the things that it's actually a great question. It's like, so whose idea was this? Who's in charge? Who's command control? Who do we go to? Honestly, those questions were not apparent the night that we found out about it, or even during the day. And then, of course, when we made the decision that we were going to file that lawsuit to try to enjoin this, at that point in time, then we become adversaries. So things get a little bit even more opaque, at least for until we get a response, which we should get any time. I mean, we could get a text while we're on the air right now with the government's response.
Okay.
So it's definitely an evolving situation, and that's one of the among the many issues. I mean, I don't think it's an appropriate place for quarantining folks that are infected with the coronavirus in our town. But let's say, for the sake of discussion, that was going to happen. If that was going to happen, you would expect a lot of lead time, a lot of information to reassure the community that they're going to be okay. Right. When you don't get that, when you go to a place that's so counterintuitive, a densely populated area to keep put people that are infected, when the theory is we want to protect the community from further infections, but you're going to put it right into it in the middle of Orange County, the sixth most populous county in the nation, in a town that has, our town has 300,000 people coming through it every single day.
Right.
So it seems super counterintuitive to put infected people in that environment. But again, if you're going to do that, you'd want to have extra communication. And when you don't have that, those are just, that's a 1-2 punch that you just can't deal with. So we made the decision between the two of us at, like I said, at 8:32, right after the briefing, that we needed to go to federal court. And the interesting thing about federal court is, of course, I'm a lawyer. I'm a federal court practitioner. And Arliss has been at federal court a lot because she was there at the Yellowstone case, where we also had Jennifer Keller. We watched a lot of that together. Is federal judges have immense power. There's the President of the United States, and then there's the federal judge. District court judge has more power than anybody in government, more power than any state governor. And because they have a lifetime appointment, they make that decision, and it carries a lot of weight. And we have a great federal bench. To every single person on the federal bench in Orange County is very good judges. They care about our community. They try very hard to make good decisions. If you get this issue, I figured, Arliss figured, if we get this issue in front of a federal judge, we'll be able to make our points to somebody who has the ability to make a decision and have the weight of the federal judiciary behind it. So, the whole city council was behind that process.
Hey, we're going to go long today with Stu News. Usually we're off the air about 12 noon. We're going to go long because this is a huge issue and I want to keep talking about it. I want to remind everybody you're listening to 101.5 KOCI LP FM, Newport Beach. And Costa Mesa, Newport Beach, Costa Mesa. We're here. So this everything's going on with this, but the injunction, if I'm not mistaken, too, includes something like this: is Fairview Developmental Center is a place that was looked at one point for homelessness, maybe putting people in there, and it was decided at that point that it needed to be retrofitted and upgraded, and that would take an extended period of time. It would take some money and all of those things. And you think of the issue of that's what needs to be done with homelessness, and then all of a sudden we're going to take sick people, and I feel bad for them that they're sick and everything, so it's not that, but all of a sudden we're going to take them and put them into a place that's not upgraded enough to house homeless people. Isn't that part of the case, or is that something you guys looked at?
Well, right. There's issues with, retrofitting for seismic safety, and also I think there's some asbestos over there. I don't know. I've only been to Fairview Developmental Center once, so I may or may not have gone through these buildings. I went on a tour.
I figured as a politician you might have lived there at some point.
No, yeah. No, Arliss was on the same tour. It's hard to get a tour there. It took a long time. Okay. And we took a tour and we looked into some of the buildings, and just as a matter of due diligence. And then at some points, there's certain politicians that outside of our area that wanted to put 200 homeless individuals who mostly had mental health issues at Fairview Developmental Center. And, the city council, of course, this was in 2017 or 18, I can't remember. We pushed back on that, and then they decided not to go forward with that because of the issues that you've mentioned, that it wasn't suitable and it would be too expensive and too time consuming to ready that site for 200 homeless people. And I'm not sure it was the right thing to do in terms of efficacy, but that's a whole other topic. And just when we get to that answer, then this coronavirus thing hits, and like I said, the whole thing just doesn't seem to make sense. It just doesn't track. It's counterintuitive. If it's not a suitable place to put a temporary homeless facility, then, as you point out, why would you think to put people that are infected with the coronavirus there?
Okay, so we're expecting a decision by the federal court at some point this afternoon.
No, a response from the defendants this afternoon.
Oh, a response
and the hearing
from the
at
defendants.
the court is tomorrow.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you for the correction. So, any idea? I mean, you have no idea where the defendants are going at this point, correct?
I don't, because we haven't seen their papers.
Okay, so let's take it both ways. So let's say, they respond, it moves forward. We have a hearing tomorrow at the federal court. One of two things can happen at the federal court. The federal court can say, I guess, yes, you're right, it's not going there. Is that correct?
That could be.
And then the other one is they could say, yes, it is going there.
Well, when you've been through the process it's my 31st year of practicing law, it's hard to predict. Things aren't always binary. In a case, it's like there's not always necessarily a winner and a loser. There's all kinds of different things that could happen. So they could say yes, no, they're not going to go there. They could say yes, they're going to go to Fairview Developmental Center. Or there could be a period where they say, we're going to put a stay on this where we have further proceedings. The one thing to remember about where we're at right now in the process is our attorneys, as I said, got this case at about 7 a.m. This is so spectacular, Keller Anderley. They got this case at 7 a.m. on Friday. They put together a brief and got it filed by 4 p.m. the same day. So, they were brushing their teeth. They didn't know what they were going to do that day. They probably had their to-do list, and they maybe were going to go out for a nice Friday lunch, and that all cratered, and they got on this. But the nature of that is called an ex parte proceeding. So they couldn't really put all of their points in. It's just physically impossible. So there might be further briefing or further proceedings that occur so that the judge, who's the decision maker, has all of the information that she needs, Judge Staten, to make a quality decision.
Mm-hmm.
Now, once that decision is made, is that a final decision? Is there anywhere to go after that? I mean, a lot of times when we start lower and things like that, there's an appeal process and everything like that. Is there any type of an appeal process if it doesn't go your way?
Yes, of course, the Ninth Circuit. And decisions on injunction are immediately appealable.
Okay.
John, so you've been in court a lot. I think obviously this is an issue very, very important to many members of our public. Who are probably planning to be there tomorrow at the public hearing. How does that play out?
Well,
what is the agenda for this public hearing?
They better be on their best behavior. That's all I can say. Yeah, I'm sure that there'll be a lot of, we'll be there, of course, and then there'll be a lot of members of the media and members of the public. And I think that, I do believe that Judge Staten, and of course they've got brilliant clerks that will work this up. I predict that she'll be completely prepared, asking all of the right questions. We have the best lawyers money can buy on this, and she will know the gravity of this situation. And there will be a packed courthouse, I guarantee it, of very interested people. We have an amicus brief that's being filed by the city of Newport Beach.
And okay, for the friend of the court.
Okay.
So letter of support.
Yeah,
okay.
People that are interested that are not parties to the case can submit information or briefing to the court. It's called an amicus brief, which is
for example, on the news last night, I saw a gentleman that lives in the neighborhood right around Fairview. He said, he has a pregnant wife, he has young kids, he's nervous about all of that stuff. Is that somebody that could join in on something like that?
Potentially, but usually it's agencies that do it or entities and things like that. So Newport Beach, Will O'Neill's been very supportive and has been talking to our Mayor Katrina Foley about this, and he's been very supportive. So the city attorney's working on it. Ocean View School District is writing an amicus brief, and so they've hired a firm that I'm aware of, and I know the guys there, and they do really good work. And so other agencies, the county is going to file an amicus brief in our favor. Other agencies have an opportunity to do that, just to put in some additional authorities, put in their point of view, and help Judge Staten make a good decision.
Now, if you were given time to think this think this over and everything, and I'm sure you've thought a lot about this. I mean, somewhere these people need to be housed because we can't forget about them.
Right, of course.
Where's a place to house people like this in a situation like this? Any ideas?
Those are some of the questions that we had in our long list of questions as well.
Okay.
I mean, I think the primary concern, right, is this has become a worldwide issue. Every time I turn on the radio, we're talking about coronavirus.
Right.
And the concern is spread across any population, right? So again, the how counterintuitive it is to talk about concentrating a group of people who have been infected, who need hospital support, medical support, who need to be quarantined into one of the most densely populated counties in the country, just seems like making a big challenge even more difficult.
You know, I can't answer this question. Maybe one of you can. You know, I'm a person with a compromised immune system. I had a kidney transplant, and I knock my immune system out every day. So when I hear news about things like this, it's like, oh, my gosh, you know?
Yeah.
So how do you catch the coronavirus? Is it airborne? Is it by touch? What is it? Do you know?
Yeah. Well, it's both, I think, airborne and by touch. One of the biggest concerns about this particular virus is I've heard that it's asymptomatic or it's got an incubation period of anywhere from 14 to 24 days. Mm-hmm. So you can come in contact with somebody who has no idea that they are infected with the coronavirus because they're asymptomatic, and maybe they're not taking the precautions that they should, and that's how it can spread more quickly than a disease that doesn't quite have the same incubation period, because during that period of time they would have contact with folks.
You know, I mean, it's really a scary deal because, you know, somebody could be in that situation again where that incubation period, and then they finally start getting symptoms. They go to a local medical center to get help or whatever, and then it's kind of bringing it right into the population. I think that's why it's kind of spinning out of control.
Yeah, and you know, it's an interesting kind of pull back to one of our earlier segments where we were talking about perception. And that's another thing to think about, is we talked about safety and perceived safety or security. And one of the major concerns here, and it's in our briefing too, is the kind of the concern of the community, even if they're safe, but if they don't feel safe and they don't want to come to Costa Mesa, they don't want to risk coming to Costa Mesa. What effect is that going to have on our community?
Sure.
What effect is that going to have on our economy? We derive 44% of our general fund revenue from sales tax, you know, compared to Newport Beach, which is more heavily weighted toward property tax. So we need people to come through Costa Mesa. One thing I say all the time is Costa Mesa, of all cities in Orange County, is the city that more people who live in Orange County come to for various reasons, to shop, to go to restaurants, to go to plays, to work. If that dries up, we're going to be in a world of hurt, Tom. And we have to protect. It's not only a public health issue, but it's the fiscal aspect of this that we have to focus on as well.
So, Arliss, looking over the next, 24 hours until you get to federal court tomorrow, what do you expect the next day to be for somebody like you?
Oh, I'm trying to get all my work done so that I can be in court.
Okay. And court's at what time tomorrow?
2 p.m.
At the federal
I
court
think
in
the
Santa
hearing
Ana?
starts at 2 p.m.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything else? I mean, that the community should know. I mean, I think both of you have been a great example of letting us know how committed the city council is to this. And anything else we should know to get out there to people?
No, I mean, just follow Arliss on Twitter. She's good about tweeting stuff out. I'm not as good on Twitter.
How do they follow you on Twitter?
Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram.
Okay.
At Arliss for Costa Mesa.
Okay. Easy.
Yeah, and just know, I just want everybody to know that the city council is on this, but also the city staff is on this, and we couldn't. Acting Chief Glass is doing a great job. Chief Stefano and Jason Dempsey, who's a person who's an unsung hero that people don't know. He's our Director of Emergency Services in Costa Mesa. And that guy has gone above and beyond in terms of advising council, advising staff, so that we can make quality decisions.
Well,
yeah, I've been. I'll just want to add. I've been really, really proud of both council and staff through this process. It was lots of things happening very quickly. A kind of heightened atmosphere, of course. We talked a lot about. Of course, the reactions we had. We were shocked to hear about this, very concerned. It wasn't public. We only heard about this on Thursday night, and we should have been in the loop, certainly before. We knew that as soon as this became news, there was going to be a lot of fear. And how do we balance that fear with kind of the urgency that we need to act on? This only made news because of our decision to, or only became public because of our decision to file this injunction. Some of what we heard was that the plan was to move people in starting Sunday night. So we said, you know what, we need to take this action, and the public needs to be aware of what we've learned as well.
Well, I'll tell you, you hired a new city manager in Costa Mesa not too long ago. This has really been a feet to the fire example of what to figure out if she's worth it or not.
She's worked in New York City. We told her that's good training for Costa Mesa.
Okay.
Yeah, she's definitely worth it. The other thing, too, is when we made the decision to file the lawsuit, we knew it would be news, and we had to send out a press release, and the city council fanned out all of us, and we made phone calls to all of our stakeholders, the Chamber of Commerce, Travel Costa Mesa, the Sand District, the Water District, South Coast Metro Lines, the School District, Sagerstrom, every person. So that was an interesting exercise and everybody that we called said the one thing is, what can we do to help?
That's great.
How can we support you? So this is an incredible community that we live in, and in a way, it's a weird, and I don't wish that it happened. I wish it did not happen, but it's just amazing how we've come together, and it's been a way that we've created unity and focused on the priorities of our community.
It's so nice in a world where politics dictate the day as far as one side versus the other side, and this is an example of how everybody's come together in spite of what you believe on the national basis or whatever. So that's good stuff.
Well, Tom, I mean, think about this for a second. In City Hall yesterday, we had Harley Ruda and Michelle Steele running against each other, standing next to each other, unified on this issue. We had Cotty Petrie Norris, who's been fabulous, by the way, and Diane Dixon running against each other, standing next to each other, helping each other. Morlock was at City Hall with Katrina Foley, running against themselves. He was at City Hall on Friday. So everybody's on the same page.
That's great. That's great. Arliss, thanks so much for coming in today. It's great catching up with you. Anything else we need to know about Costa Mesa in general before you take off today?
There's so much opportunity in Costa Mesa. It's such a wonderful city. Completely agree with what John just said about being an amazing community. I've grown up in it. I'm so excited about our future. These what we're going through right now is a very serious issue. But there's a lot of really good work happening to make our city more livable, better access to parks, more coffee shops. We've got an economic development plan coming. Working on ways to streamline business licensing, just so many good things coming down the pipeline. So hopefully we'll have a chance to talk about that.
We're going to have you back. We're going to talk about that stuff. You mentioned one of your stakeholders, and that's Mesa Water, and they're a big supporter of ours here at KOCI. And I just want to tell people that they're reaching out to the community as we speak and having community meetings. Their next meeting is Tuesday, 2 days from now, on the 25th. From 6 to 7:30 at Mesa Verde United Methodist Church. On March 11th, which is a Wednesday, from 6 to 7:30 also, they're at Sonora Elementary School. They're talking about issues related to water. They're talking about how they can help homeowners. it's good stuff. And if you get a chance, go out and check on one of those meetings. I want to thank Barry Friedland. Barry came in today. He's shot this primarily for the information on the coronavirus issue going on in Costa Mesa. You could check it all out on Costa Mesa Brief on the YouTube channel, Costa Mesa Brief. Now, give Barry a few minutes to edit the piece so he can get it on there, but in just a little while he'll have that up. I want to thank Rip, as always, for handling the board and being the engineer and everything like that. John, I am so happy you came in and were able to join me today. And long before we knew about the coronavirus,
Right.
I was just excited to have you in.
Yeah, no, it's always fun to be here in our Travis Matthews hats. And we didn't even talk about golf today, but next time.
Yeah. Arliss, next time we're going to have to get you a Travis Matthews hat to wear in. Anyway, thank you so much for sticking with us a little long today. We thank everybody that supports the show. We'll be back next week with Lynn Stellitz, Tom Johnson saying goodbye and have a great week.